What's going on, people? Welcome back to Chatting with City podcast. I did promise a few more episodes for the month of May. It ended up happening, but we're here, all right? It is what it is. And today I'm here with another guest, special person. I think of him as a big brother. I'm the oldest, and that's kind of, I guess it's a funny thing. When you're the oldest, how you feel like you always wanted a big brother, but you're the big brother. Anyway, it's strange. But yeah, man, he's like a big bro to me. Welcome, the one and only man like Timbo. Tim, what's happening?
Man, thank you so much for having me here, man. Boaz, brother, man, I'm proud of you, bro. I just want to say, like, the way you develop from high school, you're one of the most genuine dudes I know. And I always trust your heart and your intentions and your intelligence, G. On top of that, man, the way you do this podcast, when you first told me about it and I heard the first episode, I was like, dang, B, your voice is soothing as hell. Your voice is soothing as hell. So you know you got to keep doing this. You got to keep doing this. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. I wanted to give the flowers while you can still smell them, as Kanye likes to say.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. But if you keep going, I'm gonna have to stop this meeting. All right, we can't. It's not about me. This is about you. This episode is about you.
All right, let's go.
Oh, first of all, happy belated birthday. This man is out here. When was it?
I'm a man now. 27. 27 is kind of like, it's a bit of an in-between age. You're not a kid anymore. And I'm not middle-aged yet.
That's
so
true.
It's interesting.
It's funny. I had a friend ask me, she was like, I just turned 24 last year. And she was asking me, like,
when's your birthday, by the way?
My birthday is in June, so it's when this episode comes out, it's this month, June 6th.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so she was asking me, like, do you feel 24? And I was like, what does 24 feel like? Like I
feel like, I was thinking the same thing. Like, how different does it feel from 22? Probably feels a little bit different from 18, from 17 for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely different from 18 and maybe different from 20. But like I always feel like whatever age you are, you can't really think about what it was like to be, let's say, 2 years younger or 3 years younger. It's got to be like at least 5 years for the change.
Right. Ideally, you want to see some change too.
Yeah, you do want to see some change. But when she asked me, I was like, I really don't know what 24 feels like. I know I'm 24, but I don't feel like I'm 24. Right. I also feel like it's different for guys because, like, there isn't really like a time on us, right? Like you can be whatever. You can be a little man until you're 40. You don't have to be a man until you're whatever, right? We have time, so that's a privilege that we have. So I was just like,
it is a privilege. I mean, your hairline is looking straight and compact, so it's in a better situation than mine. I won't even front. So that's the aspect that mandem has to deal with, isn't it? But
so you do feel 27 just because of the hairline,
bro. I don't know if it's like stress that I've been through over the last couple of years or something, but I'm like, oh yeah, no shit, this shit's falling. This hair is falling different. It's like waking up different. At least it's not grays yet or anything. And even as I joke about that, I know one of my a friend from high school, he had a head full of grays at 23, 24 already. So I'm like, oh, bro, if he was worried about all this stuff, like, I don't know how you live. So some of this like cosmetic stuff, it's like, yeah, you gotta just let it go. When the hairline is looking like, unless I got that LeBron money, when the hairline is looking like it's time to grow, I'm gonna let it go. I've said it here on tape. I've said it on camera. So
I respect that.
Me resisting, just give me a tap on the shoulder, bro. Just give me a call. Just let me know. I remember.
Yeah, with your friend. I mean, if you got grays at 23, that means by 40 you will have a full head of gray, which can actually look really cool. So that's like, if you have a full head of gray,
it's like you look like a silver fox.
Yeah, bro, that's the look.
I wonder what other conditions you gotta have, aside from the gray hair. Like if there's other, like you probably want to, have a vehicle. You want, to say the least. I don't know if you want to be like a silver fox, like picking up biddies on the bus. I don't even know that you want to be picking up biddies, in your 40s too. That's something that I think about too. Like, I think you probably, everyone's like, desires are different. But even for someone that's like, yo, I'm cool being alone, I'm cool being single, I think there's definitely something to having attachment, having people that care about you, having people that that like, oh yeah, they don't, we ain't got to be around each other, but we're choosing to like put up with the annoying, be there for the good, the great, the laughs, people to actually genuinely sacrifice for you. So anyways, before I run out on that topic, I'll just pull it back in and let you do your thing as an interviewer. But
Well,
yeah, those are definitely
all I was saying was, happy belated birthday, man. You're 27. Like you said,
that's
you
what
do
it's
feel
for.
27 because of the hairline. The hairline's leaving
Oh
you.
man,
But
yeah.
yo, it's all good, man. Like
Hannah's been like
it's
that since a kid, for the record. I have pictures of me as a kid. So, it's not like anything's changing, but I'll stop being, I'll chill out on the defensiveness on that. I'm ready. I have a deal with God. Like, let the beard keep growing, keep being pristine, and then it rounds out. As long as I don't look like a soccer ball, like a football, like just like a brown bald egg.
smoothness all around.
What's that kid, Lil Jon? Wait, no, what's that? That big
Caillou. You talking about Caillou, bro?
Caillou, but there was a black version. The black version of like this little kid.
I got no idea. I don't know.
It's gonna come to me at some point. But yeah, you can go ahead.
All right, so I wanted to bring you on this to ask you some things. One of the things I wanted to ask you was recently you told me that, I mean, I didn't know this, but you told me that you've been living with chronic pain for a little while.
Yes.
And, at least when I think of you, and one of the things that sort of sticks out to me is you're, always being physically active. You're, a multi-sport athlete doing all kinds of, just playing almost every sport out there. And I
Right.
was kind of wondering, how did that affect you? First of all, just how did that affect you, your day-to-day life? That's one.
Right.
And how did that affect you on a level of, like, let's say, identity, being like thinking of yourself as an athlete, as an active person, right? And then from that, how did that affect your mental well-being? So I guess my question has like three parts to it.
So for context, to say that sports is my life, is probably an understatement. Like that kind of statement is probably an understatement because from the time I've been the youngest I can remember, I was born in Nigeria. I was born in a city called Port Harcourt in Nigeria. Moved to England when I was like 6 or 7 years old. And from then I was like, you could tell I was fast, you know what I mean? For, this little, African kid, I think that had something to do with it, like the upbringing. Like I wasn't, inside playing PS anything. It was probably like PS2 that was out at that point. Like I was playing all my stuff outside, competing with older kids. So that's how I grew up. Going to England, first started playing rugby, soccer. Let me actually just for the record say when I'm talking about soccer, I'm going to call it football because that's what feels natural to me. Anyways,
All right.
but football, track, rugby, field hockey, all sorts of sports that you can imagine, golf, table tennis, so movement, the dynamics of transferring energy, the poetry, the art of it is stuff that I love. Like it's actually it's stuff that really I feel like at this point I can't live without. So to answer your question of how on a day-to-day it's affected me, that means that like this huge chunk of my life that brings me happiness, I've had to been away from it. I've physically pushed myself as far as I could go to my body was breaking down consistently, and I had to take in that, okay, yeah, this is more than just injuries. So it has that big effect of um, things that you can take for granted, walking out the bed, walking up the stairs, this and that. Those things cause a lot of pain. And thankfully in the last couple of weeks, like my condition has improved by like 40-50% from the treatment that I've been doing with acupuncture. So that's fantastic. But if you picture before 3 weeks ago to this time, common things like getting out the bed, hopping in the car, I'll be groaning like an old man, sort of thing, and the pain comes in the effect that it actually feels is a grinding of the hip, constricted breathing. So it's really hard to take deep breaths that are smooth, and to have them go in a cycle. It sort of feels like I have to force it at some point. So those are things that are on top of my mind every day. And clearly it occupies some space that would be freed up to do other things if I wasn't going through it. So that's how it affects me on a day-to-day. I should jump back and say that up to me, I would never have left sports. I would never have left competition that track and field, or even soccer to begin with. But I want to talk about how it affected me as an athlete back then. Because I think being injured and not understanding my body, or not having a system that was working for me, that's one thing a coach told me one time, is that if you're constantly breaking down, or if things aren't working for you, you feel like you're trying, you're giving an effort, and things aren't working for you, you might be in the wrong system. Like, this system isn't actually helping you achieve your goals. It's not facilitating it. Maybe you're overtraining. Maybe you're doing things without having like a specific intention of how you're supposed to be doing it. So those issues of being injured all the time used to cause me a lot of shame. Like, when I'm thinking about this now, like digging through it now and thinking, oh, I had the attitude that, like, hey, I just want to heal up and get better and perform for my coaches. I want to perform for my team. I want to show everybody what I can do, and show you that, hey, it's worth putting a bet on me. I was actually I was in my situation with the track team where I felt like, oh, from day one, I was injured. And I was probably using like 60% of my capacity to compete at 100% against other people's 100% full capacity, or 90% capacity. And we're sort of, because we're sort of in and around the same ballpark, it's looking like everything's fine. And I'm feeling like, hey, you just got to keep pushing. Don't complain. I think that was a big thing I felt, is like, people don't want to hear your complaints. They want to get results. They want to see you get results. So that's something that I reflect back on being an athlete. And things I would change is to actually just remove the judgment for myself of feeling whack, that, damn, I got injured again, and actually try to understand why. Like, why is this happening? That's advice I'd give to young athletes right now, is that, like, you have to take control of your own training, of your own body. You have to get that knowledge for yourself, get the actual application of how you're supposed to do these things, so that you become a better athlete and protect yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, how it affected my identity, man. I left the team. I'd been playing soccer. I decided to switch over to track to, see if it would give me a better chance to compete at a high level. Football is, that's my main passion. But I felt like, hey, if I'm not competing at a young age at a high level, let me switch over to track, which I was fortunate enough to be around some of the best athletes in Canada at that point. Our boys from high school, we had a little group that, rapidly improved my performances. So losing the ability to compete completely decimated my identity. Like, looking back at it now, like, that seems like such a strong word, but if you picture it, from the time you're a kid, you've been around teams. That's the main place you make friends. You go to war with people. It feels like that. You actually develop a bond. Like, bro, that's where we met. That's where we that's where we got closer. It's like, oh, you're fighting
Wait.
another side.
Just to interrupt a little bit. Yes, that's where we met. But also, like, we met because I got cut. Don't forget that. All right. First time I tried it, I got cut. Yeah, I tried out.
What grade was that?
I tried out in grade 9. And I do remember I tried out with Justin. Shout out Justin Dragon. Yeah, for the CB team. So I tried out in grade 9 with Justin. Justin made it. And then I remember David Hall, he bumped me. I was like, oh, hey, boss, come here. So he bring me to the side and he's like, look, you played well. We appreciate, you coming out and trying out. But we just can't take you. You know, I'm sorry. Like the team was stacked already. Like we just can't
Right.
take you. I'm like, I was crushed, but I was like, hey, it is what it is.
That was
So
grade 9, right? You
that
were grade
was
9 trying out for the senior team.
yeah.
That's ambitious. Yeah, like that's ambitious. To tell you the truth, I think you were good enough. I think probably we had players in the, if you remember, Abe Donzo was playing midfield in that position, and no one is touching Abe Donzo
yeah.
and his
Yeah.
funky skills. So,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm sorry to kind of break in, but I had to tell everybody
oh
I got
man,
cut. I tried out. I got cut. I went home crying. But that's how we
yeah.
met.
No, the feelings are real. The feelings are real. I still think about losing to St. Pius in the Ottawa City Finals. The game that was going to send us to OFSA. Well, we did go to OFSA, but losing to St. Pius, do you know how like I have flashbacks about that? Still, I'm 27 years old, and I still think about, the captain on the other side. Like, oh man, you know what though? Shout out our team, because the next year we came back and whooped St. Pius, and I had the greatest game of my life. Like when people talk about a flow state, like I felt like there was nothing I could do wrong. Like the ball was being attracted to me, and I was dancing. I was like gliding through. Man, I can't even describe it. But the way we're talking about this now, and sorry, my dog is trying to break through my break through my room. But the way we're talking about this now, the love for sport, that thing is ingrained. It's not, there's no way you can fake it. The thing that wakes you up, that gets you lit, gets that fire going inside you. That's what this is for me. So leaving the team, I left the team with no support, with no guidance of injuries. I actually, like not to, to air this out right now, but like, I got injured on the track. This was the last injury I got at my U of T track and field career. And actually, I had been pushing to try to make up for lost time from an injury. Coach and I discussed, hey, just give it your all. Let's try and compress months of training into a few weeks before nationals. So tried doing that, got injured on the track, and I was just so devastated, man. I went home, left the track, texted my coach, like, hey, this is what's going on. I got injured again. I'm going to shut down my season. And boom, never heard back from the coach ever again. Never heard back from anyone on the team. So that's how I left the team. So, you can picture like, I'm in my third year, like sports has been my life. Being around, the camaraderie has been everything, down to the structure of your life. You have classes, you have workouts, you have food, you have recovery. All those things are structured for you. Now take all that structure away, still be a athlete, in great shape, like physically looking, have a bunch of distractions, and have, like, for the first time in your life, like no structure and no skill of just no muscle of discipline in another way. Because I had an extreme muscle of discipline when it came to training and doing things, pushing myself beyond pain and being there, organized to perform well in training. But outside of that, to apply that discipline to other things, those are things that you actually have to work on. It doesn't just naturally come. So that was tough for me. At the time, I remember I actually started channeling all that, energy and space and time into working on some projects. So I had a crowdfunding project for track and field athletes who were trying to get to the Rio Olympics. And that was such a great experience. It felt like a sport again. So I wasn't able to compete, but this was something I was able to compete in, and give my best in. So that compensated for the loss of identity or loss of role in the sports world, in that way. I think there was a third part to your question. I know this has been a long answer, but
The third part to my question, actually, you already answered how it sort of affected your mental health, in the sense that, like, you felt something. I want to go back to something you actually mentioned, how you were competing at like 60% against everybody's 90 or 100%, and like we're talking
I'm
about track
assuming,
here.
yeah, I'm
Yeah, you're
assuming
assuming, but it's like, Yeah,
Yeah,
generally speaking, most of them are, they're yeah.
in pretty, like I can say now that like, oh yeah, the conditions I have, like yeah, I know you weren't dealing with I know you weren't dealing with this sort of thing. At the same time, um, everyone has their own things. I think this comes back to my thing of like, oh yeah, you got to recognize your own, and you can't treat yourself the same as other people. Yeah. So maybe that's something you were going towards right
Yeah.
now.
So yeah, what I was trying to say was that this is track and field. Everybody's within like a millisecond of each other,
Yeah,
right? At
can
least
make a big
for the
difference.
sprinters, right? The thing that you were doing.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're not competing at not even close to your best, like bro,
Yeah.
you are the
An off
struggle.
day is doo doo. There's no, there's no like, it's a huge difference to be pristine and primed to perform like a well-oiled machine that everything functions and fires with precision and power, than to be like, okay, yeah, some of this stuff is functioning and firing, but some of this stuff feels like dead wood or feels like heavy weight. Yeah, you're not gonna you're gonna lose every time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. The
Yeah.
third part of my question was how it affected your mental health. And like I said, you kind of already answered part of that. How you
Right.
said your words were it decimated your identity, right? Which is
Let's
kind of
talk
like it
about
was part of
more.
the second question, but it also like it answered that question too. But it's interesting to see how you said that you kind of, with all that structure taken away, you were able to get a project started and actually help other athletes, go to Rio, right? Like you were
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fulfillment. Um, I think it's something that I still have right now that still drives me, is this feeling of, well, I love to improve. All right. I love to look at myself objectively and be like, yo, what areas, like if I'm like a video game character, like what's my attribute
Mm.
on this, and this? It's like, okay, yeah, this is here. Okay, how do you get it to here? Like if you're on FIFA or 2K, you can go in the gym and be working on shots and like you're slowly building up those attributes. That's how I look at everything to do with myself and with life. Um, so um, that passion extends to other people too. I want to I see somebody, somebody trying to do their thing, and I'm like, oh, yo, I respect it. I respect it so much, and I want to see, how do you get better? That's that constant question that's on my mind.
It's a great question to have on your mind through life. How do you get better?
How do you get
Um,
better?
yeah.
Without making it um, something that is unattainable. That's another aspect of this, that there's got to be some balance, and maybe people, maybe people like us, athletes, or people who are driven in one way or another, or just freaking crazy in this like obsessive kind of way.
Mm.
Maybe that, some of that extremity of, yo, I need to get better. I need to get better at this and that. Like that can be taken too far.
Yeah.
So, one thing that has kind of changed in my mind is to refine that thought, to not just see myself as like, oh yeah, your whole existence is shit. you gotta improve that whole, you gotta tighten up that whole thing. Like, some of that may be, it may have its value, but that on its own doesn't tell you what to do. And that thing can just get into games of feeling bad. The actual right thing to do is to break it down, like, okay, what part am I trying to address? Like, let me break these things down into sections. Okay, how patient am I? Okay, yeah, okay, I could be a little bit more patient because I know I'm snapping at this and that, so I could do that better. Okay, how would I do that better? Okay, well, I'm getting information from these books, these audio books that I'm reading. I'm putting that constantly in my mind, and I'm using opportunities out in the world to practice that, to take the opportunity to actually develop that sort of thing. That has been so much more useful than just feeling like, oh, yo, you got to get better, you're not good enough. I used to think that voice was like, oh yeah, man, that's just the voice that pushes me. But it's like, nah, that voice can push you, but it can also be holding you back, because you'll never actually try and go beyond your comfort level, because you kind of can have a self-limiting belief that like you're just from the origin, just not good enough. It's like,
Right.
oh, actually, you got to start off with you're good. You're legitimate. Like you're well made, like you're well put together. Like you have things that you have innate value. For me, that comes from a deeper identity that's connected to my creator. That's like there's value in there. Like I'm a reflection of God. Like having that be in my mind is something that okay, yeah, I can hold on to that value. Now, that being said, A, B, C, and D are attributes I would like to improve.
All right. I'm gonna ask you another question.
All right.
So having chronic pain, how have you approached your treatment? Like you said, the last few weeks have been really good. You've improved
Right.
significantly. So how have you approached your treatment? Which kind of gets back to something you said earlier, that people have to take essentially their body into their own hands, right? Training is different for everyone. It doesn't look the same for everybody. So what
100%.
is what does therapy look like for you?
100%. So therapy in my current state right now looks like since the beginning of this year, February, I've been seeing a physio that I trust, because that's actually a big part of it. A physio that I trust and understand, and he understands me. I've been seeing that guy twice a week. So that is for the physical manipulation of the body. And number two, the education that I get, like having someone there to ask these questions, like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. When I go like this, I'm feeling like this. Do you think that's connected to so, so, and so? And he takes it and he'll show me a map of my body, show me the mechanics of this thing. And already I'm becoming like a biomechanical machine, like in my understanding of how to transfer energy, Bruce Lee type shit for real. Like martial, one day you're gonna see me doing, backflips, like kicking flies in the head, like at 6'3" height or whatever. But
That's funny.
that's for the future. Like the point is that actually having someone there who has studied this stuff is like a cheat code. That's been amazing. Seen that guy twice a week. Then I recently, actually seeing the physio in the shop is one thing, and you gotta come home and actually do your physio. So what mine looks like right now is that I've been developing systematic ways of making sure that I do it every day and that I don't forget. So some of that is the basic stuff of being prepared, having the tools I need out for me. One big thing that has changed my success rate on my compliance, I'm keeping up with it, is that I now have my rehab sheet that has all my exercises that I've decided to keep, and I code them by date. So the first day of the week is number one, and then under the exercises, I put the day of the week, and I put the amount of reps I went into. So I have like 20 copies of this sheet that I use week to week. So over time, and I haven't done it yet. I haven't gone back and looked at oh yeah, when I was putting in more effort on these areas or those areas. But the idea is that I'm tracking, and it's making me a lot more conscious. It's like ingraining the habit. And it also gives me the chance to be able to look back and see like, okay, I'm feeling like this is working. What was I doing? Or I'm feeling like I've been doing this and it's not working at all. I can look at my sheet and be like, all right, let me touch base with my guy. Like, what do you think is going on here? And he can instantly look and be like, yo, bro, you're not doing enough. Like you're doing like two sets of maybe seven. And you're thinking like, some shit's gonna happen. So having that information there is key. Finally, I just started adding acupuncture, which is the thing that has rapidly improved my treatment. I have a old Asian lady that works on my body, and she's amazing, bro. Like I call her Mrs. Miyagi because she'll be telling me about the energy. She'll be like, yeah, open up your mouth, let me see your tongue. And I'm like, yo, what does this? I'm like, what does this have to do with? She's like, yeah, I'm seeing the energy. I'm like, you know what? Hey, I'm open to I'm open to discovering things. And also I feel like there are some things that science can explain, and some things that science can't explain yet. Which is the point of science, is that we keep on discovering ways to explain phenomenons that are already there. Yeah. So I'm not too snobby to humble myself, to listen to a different perspective and try everything. Like you said, and I'll probably just mention this before I say that thing, but it's been a long process. If I think about the tools I have in my house right now, I have a soul right, I have an exercise ball, I have bands, I have skipping ropes, I have a massage gun, I have a massage blade, I have a Dr. Ho's foot pad, I have Dr. Ho's, body patches. Bruv, the list is endless. So I had to go through all those things and like accumulate all those things to get to this point where I am now and be like, oh yeah, go do an acupuncture session and your body will improve by 50%. And it's like, okay, yeah, you probably couldn't have skipped those steps because what I know now, like, has ingrained a different reality, a different understanding into me. So, yeah, I did say I was gonna say something, but ADHD brain is forgot. But that point is good enough. Something did come back though. The little bald-headed black cartoon guy I was talking about is Little Bill. Right, just for the record. Just for the record.
Everybody, Lil Bill. That's the name.
Little
Not
Bill.
Caillou, Lil Bill.
Not Caillou. It's a black Caillou. Right.
Yeah, and yo,
Right.
something that's interesting to me about basically your process of therapy and going through all that is that adherence for chronic conditions, at least from what I've read, it's tough because in your case, chronic pain is that you feel pain just doing anything. Like you said, you wake up in the morning and it's painful, and
Right.
so being physically like you don't want to be physically active because you're gonna obviously make the pain worse, right?
Right.
But then
Yeah.
by you
Except I
not
do want to be
engaging,
physical. I do want to be physically active, but I don't want, don't want to
you
make
don't
the,
want the pain.
but I desperately want to be.
Yeah, see,
Desperately.
that's the thing. It's like you have pain, you want to be active, but you know that if you're active, there'll be more pain, right?
More
But then
yeah.
what happens is that if you avoid being active and doing exercise and going to see your therapist, then there's even
Then
more
there's
pain.
more
It's a cycle, and then you feel
It's
worse,
like
and it just keeps going.
it's a catch-22. But I'll always be on the side of um doing what I can do physically, and taking the pain there. Like I just love the stuff too much. And I also feel like 27, like, as an athlete, like I'm in my prime. So like I can't be looking at, athletes on TV thinking like, oh yeah, that dude, he's getting old at 32. It's like, nigga, 32 is 5 years away from you. Like, bruv, I still want to be able to push myself, run fast, jump, do all these amazing things before I get to, those older ages where aging catches up. And I think the better shape you're in right now, the more you have to lose from as you age. So that decline is going to be less. It's
Mm,
going to be less as we take it more seriously right now.
exactly. Physical
Oh yeah,
activity through the lifespan.
this thing that you just mentioned is a huge part of the experience. Is that motivation to do the work is actually, man, I can't even lie. Like, I like to be an optimistic person. I like to be a you know what I mean? If I was at my full, cliche corny mode, like I'll probably be listening to all these like motivational and self-help people.
Mhm.
And not even probably, I definitely have. Like, I've definitely fed myself all that through my ears, and try to make it happen. And it's a big, like, blow to the ego, a big confusing thing to feel like, man, I know that I'm a hustler. I know that I can hustle, but why do I feel like not doing anything right now? Like, why do I feel like it's so hard to keep adherence on this? And I started taking in that, oh, the amount of pain was like blitzing my body, where that for the first 10, 15 minutes, that's just gonna hurt like hell. And then afterwards, you feel better. The way my condition is, like from walking and doing the basic things of life, my body starts to like accumulate those wear and tears and tightness.
Mm.
It starts going back to its original state. So then I have to repeat that the next day. Except what I'm trying to do is slowly open up and progress, make marginal improvements every day until the point where the cycle is less drastic. So that motivation piece is a huge thing. And it's kind of come to me like, oh, bruv, but don't drink the Kool-Aid of, people being like, oh, yo, how bad do you want it? You just don't want it enough. When you want it, when you want it bad enough, no, you can want it. Like when people talk about like, oh yeah, these guys are playing in the game and the other team just wanted it more. Man, I don't know, man. I think that's a sort of minuscule way to look at it. I think what it actually falls down on is who had the better systems. They both wanted it, but who was ingrained in better training habits, better systems that meant that the decline as both teams got tired, one team was still sharper, still instinctively moving the ball to their destination, where the other team was more fatigued. Like you both want it, but how has your preparation been? How has your training been? So that is something that I now heavily focus on, is like, oh, okay, I won't lie to myself. And I know that I won't lie to myself. Like I will boil down to, yo, Tim, you're being a bum right now. Like you're being lazy. I know I can talk to myself honestly like that. It might take time, but 100% I will always get there. So when I've adjusted for the fact that like, oh yeah, I know I like to be lazy sometimes, but this is not it. This is not me being lazy. This is like, oh, there's an issue here. Then it's like, okay, Tim, yeah, get smarter about this. Actually solve the issue and level up your capacity. So instead of, we're talking about 60%, and I'm like, oh, my body is topped out at 60% and I'm pushing for 100% performance. And I'm like, man, why isn't this happening? Like, I'm such a bad athlete. Like, oh, I'm a good athlete. I know I'm better than this, man. And you just get like tough and stubborn. It's like, no, don't get tough and stubborn. Actually ask your question. When you're like, yo, why is this happening? Don't ask it out of frustration. Actually ask the question, why is this happening? And go get those answers, and it will progress.
Yeah, it will progress. And something, just to sort of cap this little section, something about what you just mentioned about, being able to push yourself and like people saying that you just don't want it enough, is that the interesting thing about that, like you said, it's just different systems. Maybe the teams had different systems, but then the important thing about even the system and how you teach players or athletes is that you have to teach them to know when to push themselves.
When to push
right?
them.
You want them to know when to push themselves for like the last few minutes or whatever. You don't want to be pushing yourself at 60%. That doesn't make sense. You're gonna implode.
Right.
But if it's the last 3 minutes of the game and it's like this is the last game of the season, it's like you can go a little harder because you know that there's so much rest on the other side of that, right?
And I think a lot of people will naturally do that. If you're at the level where you're competing and there's something at stake, those last few minutes and you have a shot, you don't need to tell anybody like, yo, we have a shot. The elite ones, can do it better partly. But yeah, I think, teaching people, that's something that coaches can get across to athletes a lot better, in my opinion. Or athletes, and I should say that athletes can also pick this up from coaches or pick this up from whatever sources they have available, is to know yourself, to take responsibility, for your thing and those mechanics and those systems, so that the feeling of how it's supposed to feel like, okay, this is good pain or this is bad pain. There's no way anybody describing to you that, yeah, it should be like this or it should be like that. That is limited in what it can do. Words can only go so far. Some of it, the really successful relationships between coaches and athletes is that the coach is able to pass along the message in the words that the athlete can understand. And the athlete is able to latch onto that, ingrain it into themselves, and feel the feeling that the coach is trying to get them to feel. So you pass that thing along. So
yes, sir. All right, this is the last question I wanted to ask you. So I want to say it was late last year, no, maybe early this year, I can't remember. But so there's this show called The Expanse, right? It's one of my favorite TV shows, right? Sci-fi. If you haven't heard of it, man, go check it out. It's on Amazon Prime. So I'm watching this TV show, right? I'm just like, oh, whatever. I'm just kind of like, half watching it, whatever. And then keep in mind, I haven't seen Tim in like 5 years at this point. I'm watching the show. I'm like, wait, is that? I had to rewind it and replay it. I was like, oh, yo, that's Tim. And so I took a screenshot of it. I
You're
sent it
lucky
over
you
to you. I
had
was
the
like, yo,
rewind.
bro, is that you?
Yeah, yeah,
So what I want to ask you is like, tell me how it happened. How did you get into the show? Like, because actually
yeah.
the photo that I'm gonna add to this is you
Right.
you're standing at the bar right next to one of the lead characters, Naomi Nagata.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, how did that happen? And then on top of that, so that was season 5. I went
Right.
back, I was rewatching the show, and I think season 1 and season 2 also like spotted you in a few scenes.
Oh, you went back and rewatched? Yeah, because I was definitely on season 1 and some of those. Those were early times for the show. I think
Yeah.
yeah, that was it was actually so funny getting that text from you because I never see these things. So I've been on some other shows, light roles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if you really call them roles. Like I'm kind of like a hybrid. Like I'm sort of in the industry and I'm sort of like doing my own thing with family business and all. Um, but yeah, it's always a dope feeling. I can't even lie. It's always a dope feeling getting a message like, yo, is this you? And I already know the answer is yep. Like, yep, that's me. So I won't have myself up, too much because it's really not that big of it's really not a big deal. Like wasn't crazy hard to do. And I'll really just say like there's people that actually do this, like there's people that are committed to the life of being an actor or being on screen. For me, I just kind of stumbled into it. It's not my sport. Yeah, it's not my sport. I can do it and I love film. And I considered it while I was in Toronto. So I remember the first time I really got into it. But I think maybe I came across some friends who were doing extra work. So that's really what a majority of this stuff is. It's like being an extra,
Mm.
like your body on camera. And then where you get really hype is if you get something that gives you more camera time, like you get paid more for that.
Right.
So I started doing a couple shows. How it works for anybody that's interested is you just get an agent, go on Google, just Google agencies that are out there. Now with this, it helps to have friends who are doing this kind of stuff because they'll tell you who to avoid. They'll tell you who is just trying to take your money, and promise you stuff. And there's different levels of doing this, right? Some people are committed, like I said, you go into auditions, are chasing down roles that will get them what we call full ACTRA. So ACTRA is the association for
Mhm.
actors and actresses and film people. I think there's another union for the people who do the camera work and all those kind of things. But certain roles will get you eligible to be invited into the union or to be accepted into the union. And once you're in the union, your pay rate goes crazy. Your pay rate goes crazy. So I'm not in the union. Unfortunately, I wasn't making bank like that. But for the show that you did see in the Expanse, the one that you saw me on, oh, that was good money. I can't even lie because they had us out here this thing called SSE, which is special skills. So these could be things like if you're doing combat, stunts,
Right.
if you're doing nudity, funnily enough, or if you're doing something like letting them cut your hair. So I
Right.
let them cut into my hair, give me these lines and all that. I'm like, bro, for this check, just don't touch my hairline. Everything else is fair game. Don't touch my
I was like,
hairline.
yo, my hairline's not even there, bro.
Hair-
Don't touch it.
just keep your clippers far away. And they did. It was a great experience. I've met some really close friends, people that I love and are doing big things. I have big hopes for these people from that industry. Yeah, it's an interesting life because it's what would you call gig work, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
gigs. Yeah.
even being a full-time actor, it's all up to you. It's like, you know, what gigs you push for, what gigs you actually get. So down on the level that I was at, um, or I guess I still could be at, um, um, like doing commercials and stuff. Like you got to book that. No one's, really coming to you like, hey, you didn't work that much this month, so we're gonna take care of you. It's like, nah, it's a jungle. It's a jungle,
Yeah,
B.
you gotta hunt up for yourself. Like, but yo, everybody, like Tim's being humble. Like this show is, at least at this point, I think it has a cult following at this point. Like it's so good. Like
How did you
I
start watching it?
listen, no, just listen. So I love shows and film or whatever, and like I'm very kind of, I get very when I'm rating TV shows, I'm not very generous, and I actually think this is a 9 out of 10. Like,
I get that.
not joking. So if you
That's
haven't
just
seen it, go check it out. It's on Amazon Prime, like I said. And how I started watching it was, I think when it first came out, it might have first season was maybe 2016. I can't remember because it's only 5 seasons in. And the latest
right,
season just dropped 2021 early this year.
right. Yeah,
Um,
it's on that first season.
the first season was on a different network. I can't remember which network, but it wasn't on Prime then.
Maybe like space. Maybe like space.
Something like that. Yeah, yeah. One of those like sci-fi networks. So it was
Yeah.
one of those. And I can't remember how I found out about it, but I started watching it. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Because the premise of the show, I don't want to say anything, but the premise of the show is really interesting.
Mm.
And one of the things that I love about the show is essentially one of the dialects they have for a group of the people on the show. And so I just started watching it. And then, like I said, I didn't realize you were on the show until season 5. But then when I went back, I saw you on like season 2 and season 3. I was like, that's Tim.
That's hilarious. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I would love to. I did a TSN commercial that when it aired, I think it aired during the NBA playoffs. LeBron versus when was that? I think that's probably like 2015, 2016 or something. But yeah, when like people started seeing me, I'll just start getting messages blown on my phone, pictures and all that. And I had never seen it. I had never seen it actually. So actually seeing it live on TV, it's a dope feeling. I can't even lie. Something about being part of creating something and seeing yourself on this platform that you take as such a huge thing, like you like I've grown up admiring movies. Those are two big things that I love: sports and movies, film, that kind of stuff. Telling those stories. So actually getting a chance to like see yourself in the same. Let me. Okay, you were saying I'm being humble. Let me just like do a stretch right now to see Idris Elba and Denzel Washington and these niggas on TV, and then be like, oh shit, yo, I'm on TV. Yeah, okay, I was on there for 11 seconds, but damn, like I'm on the
Still on
same
TV.
platform. It feels good. Feels good. Same, with my sports heroes, being able to do what they do feels great. So yeah, I'm not at that level yet, but we're gonna keep on going, man. We'll see what's in store.
But yeah, before I let you go, because we've been going on for a little while, I want to ask you something I've been asking the other guests. What's the most positive thing that's happened to you this year? Because I mean, it's kind of been a terrible year for a lot of reasons, but what's a good thing that's happened to you?
Wow, what a question. What a beautiful question. I think the most positive thing that's happened to me this year is getting more in touch with my family, on the real. Um, so I'm working with my family now for family business. And, one thing about business is that the tension and the pressure that comes from there will expose your weaknesses, like it goes how you go as an individual and as a team. Like if y'all aren't good, if y'all have dynamic issues, if y'all have, things that are unsaid, like the fault lines or the cracks will open up. So the pandemic is really what brought me back to, I was gonna give my location. Man, I don't know if I give my location out here, but you already know I'm in Ottawa. But the pandemic that brought me back also gave me a big chance to look at, okay, yo, there's some things I don't like in this dynamic right now, in the way we interact, the way we talk to each other, in the way like, I don't feel as close as I want to be. I want to be more authentic and intimate with y'all. That probably wouldn't have changed as drastically as it has unless the pandemic kind of brought me back and forced us to be together. Even if the pandemic forced us to be together without actually doing the work of those like awkward conversations, those like, explicit conversations that you got to have, like, people are feeling certain things, but no one is talking about it. You got to talk about it, man. You got to talk about it. You got to get so comfortable and so real with your family. And like that's me talking to myself, because I'm like,
Right.
on a family level, like, family is the thing that's like most important to me. I know people say that, and I was talking with my brother, and I think like we're sort of on the same page. Shout out Jimmy. He was on here earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But being accepted by family and being really, really comfortable and happy with family, and being able to express your thoughts in a way that oh, everyone's gonna be good, even if I disagree, or I express this thought, or I'm doing something that they don't like. Like, they're still good, and they still accept me. You need that acceptance from your family before you go out into the world. Like, because it's kind of like, I don't know if I can cuss in here. It's kind of like, fuck everybody else. Like, I have love for everybody, but the truth is that if your family accepts you, and you're steady good with your closest people, your core of people, and some random's opinion of you doesn't move you, doesn't shake you. When you feel like, oh, there's a bit of I'm not so sure where I stand, like, will I be accepted? Like, even though, silly things. So like, my family's African, of course, Nigerian. There's certain things like, oh yeah, the way you grow your hair, or like, tattoos on your body and stuff. These kind of things can be massive red flags for parents. They'll start thinking, oh my God, you see, we came to this country to try and give you a better life, and now you're trying to, oh my God, oh my God, Father. So, some of those things, it's like, oh, it's a cultural difference. But if, it's even silly gaps, and looking for the right word, but if those things remain in there unsaid, you're losing intimacy. And I think that's what I want most from the people I love, is to be able to be real with you, and not give you my corporate side, because the rest of the world can get my corporate side most of the time. So I love to be able to lay my guard down and be goofy and be real, be candid, um, very, very honest and open with people. So that's been the biggest blessing, is the fact that I've seen it rapidly improve from back then to now, which means for everyone that I'm competing with in terms of business, it's a wrap. I'm
I got
sorry,
my family behind me.
wrap.
Yes, sir.
It's a wrap, because we're gonna keep on learning how to get better, and we're committed to figuring things out. We have that good faith. You got to remind yourself, like, yo, we're on the same side. We're on the same side. Like, disagreement about this or that, we're on the same side. So we ain't got to be opposed.
Is there
Right.
something you want to promote to kind of round this out?
Yeah, so we got our Sunshine Snacks. That's our business that my mom started off. Such a hard worker. She started off by herself. It was like a hobby that she was making for friends and families. So what we produce is a West African snack called chin chin, and various other snacks, like meat pie. But chin chin is, really the main thing that we're pushing right now. It's a golden brown, finger size, little finger bites that you can just
I
keep on.
gotta look this up.
Mm. Bruv, I already got one in store for you. Don't worry, I'm gonna put you down on my list right now.
Let's go. All right, let's go.
That's what I'm working on. By the time you're dropping this episode, not too far after that, we should be up with our socials and our website up to date. So, if you search up Sunshine Snacks or Sunshine Chin Chin, or if you search up my IG, Timbo_slice, that's TIMBOO_slice. Shameless plug. You can give me a follow. You'll see the stuff out there. So yeah, I'd love to spread out to the world. This summer is a great time. It represents everything I love, man, which is sunshine, happiness, all those things that are far, far away from a sort of like dark gray winter vibe kind of thing. Like, it's an explosion of energy.
Right.
So I hope you guys feel that too, from coming on my page or checking out these snacks.
Yes,
Brother,
sir.
thank you so
Sunshine.
much for giving me the the platform, man, to put that out there.
I've wanted to get you on here for a while, but obviously you've been busy with, the family business stuff going. I'm happy to hear that, the year, which has been terrible for most people, that's kind of brought you back and let you connect with your family and everyone else. That's all important. And hopefully I can see you in the next little while in real life.
Yeah, we'll play some footy.
Yes, sir. Anyway, guys,
so much, man. I appreciate you. It's funny, I'm looking in the background at the picture of Lil Bill's bald ass head, and he just looks like he's kind of telling me like, yo, fam, come over to this side, B. Just shave the head, B. Just let the hairline go.
Join the bald side.
I'm gonna leave it. When that happens, that happens. Yo, Boaz, thank you so much, bro. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm looking forward to. I'd love some of the episodes on here. The one you did with that's like don't be a beg friend. Man, that shit had me laughing. Shout out that dude, man.
Shout out to James. Shout out to James out there in the UK.
That shit was so funny, and for him to be so real and vulnerable, I'm like, yo, I'm all for that, especially as men right now. Like we hold certain things to, I think like it's really easy to like try to be cool or try to meet people's expectations. But bruv, just accept yourself first, and that shit people pick up.
Yes, they do. And to kind of bring it full circle, accept yourself first, but then part of that is your family accepting you, like you were talking about before. If they accept you, you don't have to go out there trying to look for anybody else's acceptance. I can't speak today, but yeah, like that's well said. Yeah, we'll end on that. Thank you for being on here, man. I always appreciate talking to you.
Thank you, bro.
And yeah, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.